Welcome to Nach Simanim. I'm Jacob Thomas, and today we will be learning melachim aleph, perek vav. We begin this perek with a recap. It has been 480 years since Yitzias Mitzrayim, all the way in Shmot, perek Yud Gimel, or really perek Yud Dalet. And finally, God has a permanent house. In the month of Tziv, which is ER, and the scale of this house is 60 amos long, 20 amos wide, and 30 amos high. It is huge. It is grand. Or the main structure is that big, which matches similar to the dimensions of the Mishkan. And there's a description of all the absolute glory of this building and how it was built with bricks or stones that were already ready when they were brought because they were perfectly cut at the quarry. No hammer, no axe, or any tool of any iron is built inside the atmosphere of holiness that is the Beis HaMikdash. And after it's done, God comes to Shlomo and tells him that its spiritual foundation is even more important than its physical foundation. And as long as Shlomo continues to follow in the ways of God, God will continue to follow in Shlomo and protect him and continue and dwell within his temple. But if he doesn't, if Shlomo goes off the path, God will cut himself off, will sever the tie. And we then have a beautiful description of the inner walls that were lined with pure gold, and how Shlomo made giant kruvim, 10 amot high, to be in the Kodesh Kadoshim, in the holiest of holiest places. They reached 5 amot in each direction. An amot is about 1.5 to 2 feet. And creating a resting place for the Aron. As a recap, we have the prophetic date, where it's exactly 480 years after Yitzias Mitzrayim. We have the silence in Yerushalayim, in which all the buildings are built outside. All the stones are cut outside, with no stones inside. We have God's promise to Shlomo to be with him as long as he follows the Torah. And we have the golden sanctuary that has the giant cedar walls and the giant kruvim. We are in perek vav, so just like Zichru, we use a sword, because vav is long like a sword. Vav, the Hebrew letter. Shlomo uses a sword to cut an area for the Beis HaMikdash to be built. This reminds us how Shlomo, in this perek, builds the Beis HaMikdash. All the metal tools are not used inside of Yerushalayim and are instead used outside to make the giant stones that are beautiful and perfectly cut that get brought to build the beautiful Beis HaMikdash. And we have a description of what does this Beis HaMikdash look like. And then we have God telling Shlomo to follow in his path for it to continue. Then we also have a description of the size, and we have the description of the kruvim and the Kodesh Kadoshim that Shlomo built. One more time with the simon. Shlomo uses a sword to cut an area for the Beis HaMikdash to be built. We're now going to do a 4-perek back chazar, starting with perek beis, in which we use a house. Shlomo removes his political threats from his house and establishes his kingdom. This reminds us how David tasked Shlomo with following in the ways of God and getting rid of all the people who tried to rebel. So Shlomo puts some people in house arrest, exiles other, and kills other in order to create a safe kingdom. Now, perek gimel, in which we use a camel. The wise camel grants Shlomo wisdom and reveals the true mother. The wise camel grants Shlomo wisdom and reveals the true mother. This reminds us how Shlomo gave korbanos. He also married Bat Paro. He then God comes to him and says, "What do you want?" and is pleased that Shlomo only asks for wisdom and says, as a reward, he'll give him all the other things. And his wisdom is shown the next day when he's able to discern who's the true mother between two women who both claim that the live baby is theirs and the dead baby is the other one's by taking out a sword and telling, let's split the baby, knowing that the true mother will not harm her own baby. Perek Dalet, in which we use a door. The door opens to Shlomo's peaceful kingdom. This reminds us how Shlomo got a very peaceful kingdom, divides it into 12 areas because there's 12 Shvatim, has a leader over each one. We have description of the leader, how they're related, and each one gives monthly provisions, one per month, and we have a description of how happy and content the people were in their land and how prosperous they were. Perek hay, in which we use a stack of hay. Shlomo gathers bricks and hay to use in the building of the Beis Hamikdash. This reminds us how Shlomo consults with Hiram. Hiram sends him wood. Shlomo sends him agricultural products, and Shlomo also gets a whole bunch of people to get bricks. I guess Shlomo sends him wheat and hay, and this way Shlomo begins to gather all the materials to build the Beis Hamikdash. We're now going to do a 10-question pop quiz. In which perek does Sheva ben Bichri blow the shofar to incite the northern tribes to abandon David's house? Shmuel bet, perek chaf. In which perek does Shlomo start constructing the Beis Hamikdash 480 years after Yitzias Mitzrayim? Melachim aleph, perek vav. In which perek does Yoav trap and murder Avner ben Ner in the gateway of Hebron? Shmuel bet, perek gimel. In which perek does Yehuda and Israel live in safety, every man comfortably under his own vine and fig tree? Melachim aleph, perek dalet, but really the beginning of perek hay. In which perek does Bana and Rachav assassinate Ishboshet in his bed and flee to David at Hebron? Shmuel bet, perek dalet. In which perek does two massive cheruvim made of olive wood are built and put inside the Kodesh Kadoshim? Melachim aleph, perek vav. In which perek does King of Hiram float giant cedar log rafts down the Mediterranean for Shlomo? Melachim aleph, perek hay. In which perek does Uzzah reach out his hand to steady the Aron, but then die due to his error? Shmuel bet, perek vav. In which perek Shmuel set up a memorial stone named Even Ezer following the victory over the Plishtim? Shmuel aleph, perek Zion. In which perek does Israel coordinate with a massive tribal coalition at Mitzpeh and wage war against Binyamin after the case of Pilegesh Begiva? Shoftim, perek chaf. That is it for today. May we be zocha to finish all of Nach, one perek at a time, and remember it day after day. Have a wonderful day.